A very good afternoon, everyone. We are proud to present the 5th edition of vdonxt Asia Week, an e-conference that looks to capture the ongoings in the online video industry through conversations and discussions with the top names of the business. To begin with, I would like to thank our sponsors, presenting partner Woot, associate partners Pubmatic, Viduli, and Z5, and insights partner NEPA for their support. On the panel, we have Mr. Gaurav Rakshit, Chief Operating Officer, Viacom Digital Ventures, Mr. Ritesh Khosla, EVP and Deputy General Counsel, Sony Pictures Networks India, Mr. Karan Bedi, Chief Executive Officer, MX Player, will be joining us shortly. Now introducing you to the moderator of the session, Shrikant Khandekar, Curator of vdonxt Asia and co-founder afaqs. Once again, thank you everyone for joining. Over to you, Mr. Khandekar.
Yeah. Thank you, Devashish. Yeah, welcome everyone. Let's get straight into the subject. 2020 was an amazing year for e-commerce players as well as the OTT players, because people were at home, they were watching. I think they were buying more than ever. They were watching more than ever. So it will be, even in the history of OTT, a year to remember. But it will also be remembered for a dark cloud, which is that a perennial problem, which is piracy of programs. And you know, I must say that many of us don't realize just how rampant it is, because you just take it matter of factly. But piracy also spurted, at least, Ritesh and Gaurav and Karan will tell us more. But I remember soon after the clampdown happened, the lockdown happened, there was a surge in piracy of 40 or 60% immediately. Okay, so we'll get into why the reason is. So even as viewing surged to levels that they would not have been expected for a few more years, piracy jumped as well. Okay, so we're here to discuss what is the nature of piracy, how prevalent is it, and why does it happen? Is it something peculiar to India, or is it universal, and what could we do about it? So let me start with you, Gaurav. Could I have your opening remarks, say 2 minutes, 3 minutes, please, you and Ritesh? And there's one more thing. Gaurav, your mic is off, yeah. One more thing. Could you also give us one example, just so that the audience appreciates how rampant, how large this problem of piracy is? One example of a program, of a movie, any perhaps an original content where you suffered and lost money.
I'll give you one that was recent and very painful. We did this, massive new initiative where we took Bigg Boss behind the paywall, and we had, people being able to live stream content of the Bigg Boss house and also watch before TV on Bigg Boss. Right? And it is obviously a piece of content that India is plugged into. And I think it went extremely well. It was wildly successful as a subscription driver. But what we didn't anticipate was, given that it is a reality show, to see that same before TV experience getting streamed on, and I won't take names of platforms just because I don't want to give anybody mileage or ideas, getting streamed within a few minutes of us putting it out there and being available, for free in the public domain for content that was not just very watchable, but was also sensitive to us, right? Because results and things matter. That was just horrible. And, we're obviously more recent entrants into the subscription space. And so while we were only playing the AVOD game, it was not as debilitating, although it was still very much rampant. Now we're seeing, how damaging it can be to a subscription service to see all of what, ostensibly costs a lot of money and is for paying subscribers to be available so freely and so flagrantly in the public domain. So that's really, something that's been an eye-opener to us. And I did a little work to figure out, are we the only people dealing with this? And quite frankly, we're not. It's, I think it's the DMCA, or it was set up 22 years ago, for anti-piracy and stuff like that. And they're still battling it. So by no means is it, that we're lagging as a nation. Perhaps there are some ideas that we can incorporate that others have done, but it is very much a global problem. And yeah, we'll talk about the magnitude and stuff. Let me turn it over to Ritesh to give you his thoughts, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Ritesh.
No, thanks, Gaurav. I think you have already set the context. So Shrikant, the problem is perennial, and the problem has been very old. I think ever since the cable television came to the foray with the conditional access system, where you put in when you have the set-top box, and when you have this, conditional access, only you can subscribe to certain channels and you can watch only those channels. Ever since that came to the foray, the piracy started coming up because people were used to watch the content free, and all of a sudden this conditional access came, and pirates spotted the opportunity. I've been working on this anti-piracy at Sony Pictures. I think it's been now close to 7 years. So, we started this as a legal project, as an initiative. At that point in time, people did not feel the pinch of the piracy because the TV market was growing exponentially year on year. I read the BARC report; it still grew by 9% last year. Right. But when you go to the international markets, my same channel, which is available here thanks to Try for 9 rupees or for 4 rupees or 5 rupees, there the channel pricing is about $10, $15, all colors, let it be Sony, Star, the leading channels which are distributed in UK, US, in all these European markets and North America. These are priced very high, and that is an opportunity for the pirates to come up with the Cody boxes. You just pay one time for the hardware and you watch not only Sony, Viacom, all South Asia channels for free. And that's eating into the revenues. So OTT piracy was happening, and some of us did not feel it as much because most of us, like Woot, started with the AVOD model, so as we, until Hi, Karan. Hi.
Hi, Karan.
So until we all started moving to SWOT business, and that's where all of a sudden we realized that it's really damaging. You asked for certain examples. One example, I'm struggling to find which is the most apt example because there are so many. We recently came up with Scam 92, which is I'm told is a blockbuster. Tremendous views, and the only point that these OTT platforms are investing so heavily into OTT or into this original web series is that they want people to come to the platform, take a subscription on the behest of the original programming that you're presenting to them, sample more and take a subscription. So just to give you in terms of numbers, so I got some exercise done. So while we got a surge in our subscriptions, obviously every blockbuster original will give you the subscriptions. Right. But did it translate into the number of views that this show got and the number of subscriptions? I think we just got a fraction of it. In terms of numbers, Scam 92 got about 45 million views in the first 45 days, world over. And those 45 million views, you can attribute, double viewing, 4 people viewing within the house, all of that. Even if I were to discount, we extrapolated the numbers, we came about 32 million, mind you, only in the first 45 or 50 days.
Right.
I never got those subscriptions. Those are lost. So people ripped it apart and watched it. And how they get hold of this content is very surprising.
Can you share how many subscriptions you did get, or just
no,
the exact figure? No, some indicative thing. No, not at all.
No, I can tell you that it's a blockbuster show and we got a surge. But the point that I'm trying to make, Shrikant, is that in the 45 days, the several tens of millions of views, I could not capitalize.
I know. Sure.
Those were my legit views. They should have come and could have paid 200. I'd look at 200, and watch the show, but no. They will watch it in free. They want to watch it for free for inferior quality, and sometimes the picture is hazy. I've seen various kinds of pirated videos going up. Now, I'll give you another example of the extent of piracy.
Ritesh,
Sorry, Shrikant.
may I, sorry to interrupt. May I ask Karan the same question? Then we'll come back to this.
Yes,
Yeah,
sure.
sure. Hey, Karan, hi. Karan, good to have you. I just asked Gaurav and Ritesh to just for the opening remarks, how they view the problem, and to give one example of being badly hit by piracy. So Gaurav had given the example of Big Boss, and Ritesh of Scam. And so could you just give us a quick overview of how you see the problem, and give one example of how MX has been hit by piracy? It's for the audience to get a sense of just how damaging it is.
Thank you. So, I apologize profusely for being late. I'm very sorry. So we come from a unique perspective. I think we're the only platform in the country, if not the world, that is actually creating premium original content and giving it for free. We use only the ad model, right? I think there are a few other platforms, including Sony and Wood, where there's a certain amount of content that's free, and then certainly the original exclusive stuff is behind a paywall. For us, it's all free, and it's a different conversation about why we think that. But I think to give you an example, and this is an even bigger problem, because there at least you are charging for the content. We are not even charging you, right? We are saying watch it for free on a super sophisticated, high quality, zero latency, blah, all of that, right? And even then, I'll give you an example of Ashram. Ashram today, again, hard to validate data globally, has been watched by over 120 million unique viewers, with over 1 billion views that we can track. Of our platform, we believe that it could have been at least 30% more, right? And because it's free, so our gap is less wide than Ritesh's or Gaurav's, because that payment barrier probably, as he said, 70-80% of it could have actually been off of platform. In our case, 30%. But even that number, if you think about it, that's and how we track these numbers is also interesting. There's no sort of finalized science to it, but for example, one of the two of the biggest offenders, I would say, on this are one is Telegram. Obviously, there are lots of Telegram groups that get this. And there's another app called Vidmate, which is kind of like I'm sure you've heard of Popcorn Time, but it's like a similar app. It's like a bit of a search engine for content from anywhere. And actually, that's where the problem comes to. Is that we track these apps, we have some degree of being able to understand how many users have watched and whatever. And in our estimation, there would have been at least a couple of 100 million couple of 100 million views that have been missed out. And in our currency, because we are reward, those views and minutes are is dollars for us, right? That's what we get. And unfortunately, I think the one area, Ritesh, I think that has changed a little bit from the past is, unfortunately, these Telegram and Vidmate and all, they are perfect quality, perfect resolution. There's no difference. There is, like, to be honest, I have, and because of work, I keep downloading from these different things just to see. And it's unfortunately, it's a great experience. Because you go there and you go to a Telegram group, and right now you go and search and say, scam 92, you will find, 20 perfect copies of it, which it takes. And because these are, again, these are large engineered systems that have got, reasonably good technology downlinks and whatever, it becomes easy. So very frankly, Shrikant, I think it's hard to overstate the impact of this problem, and from a guy giving it away free.
Shubhu, it's so interesting. All of you have given examples which are very different. Big Boss is different, and so is Scam, and so is Ashram. Okay, so now I'm throwing it open. What changed last year with regard to piracy? how has the issue or the problem or the magnitude changed? I mean, was it some kind of a watershed here in that sense? Yeah.
I can give you one change I can think of, which I was tracking this from 2018 actually, and it's been continuous, where India was obviously always very dominant in terms of piracy. We're in the top 5 in the world, right? Interestingly, that form of piracy used to be
just one moment. When you say top 5 in the world as a person, illegit views as a percentage of total views, like that, or in
as a percentage of total illegit views in the world.
Sorry.
As a percentage of the total illegitimate views in the world.
As a percentage, okay. But is that greater than a share of population or what?
So I'm saying that it's, no, I don't know how per capita it is, but I see what you're saying.
Okay.
But I think that the premise then was that we used to do a lot of it peer-to-peer. So it was, shared stuff. Now a lot of it is being streamed. And as Karan was saying, that has changed the game completely. Earlier, you had to dodge through this minefield of potentially, malware getting downloaded, worrying about things, etc. Now it is just makhan, the kind of experience that people are getting with no risk. I think that's something that is unprecedented. And so earlier, I think peer-to-peer used to be about 60% of the piracy. Right. Now I would warrant that streaming is the dominant contributor to piracy. So that I think is
as opposed to shared passwords.
Oh, share passwords or file transfers, like you would go onto a pirate site and things like that where you would download content. Now it's like much more rampant through a streaming service. So I think that's the big change as I see it.
And just to add in there, I would say that shared passwords is like I mean, it's hard to say whether it's even piracy or not. I mean, I think just the even just the sheer illicit streaming sites and illicit downloads, I think that in itself, I mean, I think shared passwords just opens up another Pandora's box of another magnitude, I think.
Sure. Ritesh, you've been seeing this for a long time. So do you think last year something changed in that sense? Streaming or anything else?
Look, Shrikant, in my view, OTT piracy was happening. It was happening. I've been tracking it. Yes, there has been a certain degree of thrust in 2020. I think big shows came up. A lot of innovations took place. It was pandemic. The KBC whole registration process was done online, which was a huge success. Gaurav did innovation. And a lot of promotion and marketing. These are my views, because I could very well remember the piracy which was happening on Sony Live, in spite of all the basic hygiene technology that you were taking care of on your platforms. So I don't see things have dramatically changed on the piracy front in 2020. But yes, there has been a certain degree of thrust. And I would support what Karan said, that Telegram has emerged in 2020, if I may say, as the biggest culprit. To give you an example, and I've seen it every time, every month, all of us launch, or we endeavor to launch one new original to sustain the subscription business and to woo new subscribers to come in and join our family. The moment you upload the file, so if the show is going live tomorrow and I upload the files at 12 a.m., the intervening night between today and tomorrow, in 15 minutes, Shrikant, in 15 minutes, the show files in HD quality are available on Telegram. Now this, I don't know whether they come and intercept.
How can that happen? I mean, just I'm asking totally. I don't know the technology, but just as a layperson, how can something disappear? I mean, be in the public.
Some pirates. So you see,
how do they access it? I mean, is it an internal failure? Is it? How do they break into the uploading process? How does it work?
If you ask me, I would think that, and this is not with Sony Live. This is with all the leading OTT platforms. Now, there are two types of pirates, I call it in my legal language. There are organized pirates, and then there are,
Freelancers.
soft pirates who business, they're based out of certain problematic jurisdictions having weak laws, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, some of the East European countries. They have their hubs there, and they have multiple hubs, so that if you switch them off in one jurisdiction, they seamlessly switch on to the other jurisdiction. Now, what's happening is that these organized pirates, Shrikant, and MPA has the estimates that they invest as much, if not more, in technology to reverse engineer our technology to earn the money. They're organized. They have the biggest techies. They have infrastructure, not only in one place, but in multiple jurisdictions. How can they afford it? Because they are not paying taxes. They're not running the business legitimately. So when these organized pirates start targeting, then the only way is to, there's no way to combat. You just can do, the risk mitigation by enhancing your technology. Oh, now I have got VPN secure mode, I've got double coding, I've layered coding, I've got DRM, but they have counter technologies to reverse engineer your technologies and come to your platform probably. I don't know. I have, my tech team says that there are no traces of somebody coming to my system and taking out the content. And if they could come, they could take away the entire content. So, but they are not doing it. They are very selective.
So one question is that the content that's pirated is always originals. I mean, the battle is over the originals, is it? Or it's over anything?
There's a lot. You can get old episodes of TV shows. You can get pretty much anything you want.
So I could find a replica of Wood somewhere, as it were, on Telegram.
Not in the same form. Every file that's on Wood possibly, but not. I mean, it won't come to you as Wood in that sense.
Sure, I get it. But fundamentally, oh my goodness. But
I mean, theoretically, I think you should be able to find most of what you want. Okay. But yeah, it is also, there is some level of demand and supply that they use. But I wanted to react to what Ritesh said earlier, which is, to my mind, I mean, and very recently in the last few years, actually, I've seen this crackdown on porn, right? I don't think it has eliminated porn in the country, but there's been a concerted effort to at least reduce traffic to the largest service providers. And I think that at a bare minimum is what I would expect. In fact, I've got, fortunately, Karan here, who's leading that effort from CII. And so it is something that I think that we should be looking at.
So the way the laws are, okay, if I may interrupt the conversation for a minute, I can see we've got several questions already, but audience, please keep posting questions. I'll try to, post as many, share as many as I can with the speakers later in the session. Karan, so what have you been, so what is it, I mean, do the existing laws, is the problem fundamentally about the way the laws are, or is it will?
So I'll give you an example from a personal example from my past. So when I was in college, there used to be as you can imagine, colleges, especially technical colleges, are a breeding ground for this kind of activity. And when I was in college, there used to be a 3-strike policy we used to have on the IT network, that if you were caught once, you were given a warning. If you were caught twice, you were kicked off the network for a period of 2 weeks. And not being able to access the network basically means you can't do anything, right? Your email, this, that, whatever. And this is the pre-smartphone era. So you were kicked off, you were screwed. And the 3rd strike was that you were kicked off permanently, right? And very frankly, it was not that hard. It was not enforced that concisely, and it wasn't a hard enforcement. But I still remember from that time, I'm talking about 2000 and probably 5, 6, sometime in college, in the US, there was a case where a college student, not from our college, was prosecuted by the FBI, arrested and prosecuted. If you remember, I mean, now you don't see it very often, but in the old days, and DVDs and VHSs, we used to have that little FBI warning that used to come out saying piracy is a crime. This, that,
yeah. Oh my God, right. It's a long time back.
So the FBI, and I mean, I'm assuming they're scary people, actually arrested a college student, right? 18, 19, 20-year-old student for pirating some one episode of something where, and you know, in that case, they were able to prove the entire link of what was. But that literally scared our entire campus, and I'm sure many other campuses across the country, saying, "Ke boss, I mean, if the FBI, which is supposed to go after gangsters and, you know, embezzlers and all of that nonsense, can come and arrest a college student for downloading a show or an episode,
It scared the pants off. Yeah, sure.
this is it. It scared the pants off. And so I don't think it's a question of having the laws. We have laws. Piracy is illegal in India. There are umpteen number of laws. Copyright violation is a criminal offense. All of that is there. But I think that I don't see anybody over here, you know, going down to the point of saying, go arrest a guy at some college in India, and a prestigious college, right? Let's take maybe one of the IITs or something. And I'm sure piracy there is rampant. Arrest somebody, put him in jail for piracy.
No, but hang on one sec. See, the thing is that you know, when you go back to before you joined us, we were talking about, you know, they just talking about the cable days, etc. Right? The fact is that the industry was smaller. It was much more splintered, possibly less organized, right? And there were lots and lots of cable operators by the thousand, right? It was difficult to get your get your hand around anybody's collar, really. But now the industry is much more consolidated. Okay, the players are the content owners are identifiable. They are organized. Okay, there are laws in place. Maybe there were laws in place then as well. Isn't it? So I mean, so is it a question of will? The laws are adequate. No, forget these kids in a college. You know, I think that's an example. It's a very interesting one, but it's from your experience. But where guys are doing something at a professional level, okay, like on Telegraph, etc., what can be done there?
So I think the one example I gave, sorry, just a second, Karan, was basically, I think the throttling was effectively done at the ISP level, right? So to my mind, at least if I had to look for that, if there is a way to establish beyond doubt that this particular service provider is not kosher, then given that example, I am thinking that that's one route to take. Karan obviously is also taking the settings an example, perhaps, and making an example of someone as this thing. But yeah, that was my take. Maybe Karan and Ritesh can talk about it. Ritesh has already got some experience actually going after, and perhaps either successfully or unsuccessfully in certain cases.
Unsuccessful. Germany and Australia.
So what happened?
So it was not all by myself, Sony. It was, you know, we took an industry initiative, Star, Sony, I think Viacom was part of it, Z was part of it, and I believe Sun was part of it also towards the latter end. So what we did, Australia amended its Copyright Act, and it made it very easy to go after the pirates, especially the Kodi boxes, where you can buy this internet box and stream, just pay once for the hardware, and you can watch all the channels of South Asia, especially the Indian channels, not only on the live basis, but also on VOD basis. So we went after them. Now, these are very expensive cross-border litigations, Shrikant. It requires a lot of commitment, and the result can be uncertain. Now, you know, a lot of us felt that, you know, when the cost started hitting us and the results were uncertain, and, you know, somehow I believe that, you know, we could have prevailed in shutting the shops of those pirates operating from Australia and showing my content in Australia. People thought that, you know, if I'm investing $1, am I going to get few pennies in return? And there was no answer to it. Similarly, in Germany. In Germany, we were you know, entangled in the legal requirements of German Copyright Act versus Indian Copyright Act, how it, you know, enforcement mechanism. So I don't want to get into that. But I still think that in order to effectively tackle these organized pirates, the soft pirates, you can shut them down, you can in real time take them down. But these organized pirates, which are rogue, habitual pirates, the only way is cross-border litigation. You can shut their shop here in India by going to the ISP, getting a John Doe or a dynamic John Doe, and, you know, through DOT and METI, you enforce that, and telcos over a period of 20 days, and you send them letters, contempt letters, and then they will shut down those letters. You are just cutting them from India. Your content is visible around the world. What are you doing about Bangladesh? What are you doing about Middle East, where you have a big market? Gaurav has a big market, Karan has a big market. You are not stopping them. So you need to go and attack them at their source, at their hub where they are operating. Of course, there are challenges, legal challenges, but I think that's where the industry needs to unite and combat and fight them, shut their shop.
Karan, what is as a percentage of your turnover, what kind of damage does piracy cause? Just you can't know the exact figure, but just give a broad benchmark figure.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, right? It's very hard to say that, but I think that, you know, in our case, just to give you the sense of, if I was to just, you know, straight up do a linear equation of saying that if X amount of additional minutes were generated by piracy, and that would have generated the same amount of you know, revenue for me legally. I mean, you can say for us 30-40% hit. I think for the S-word guys, probably a lot more than that, because you know, as they said, if they estimated 32 million, you know, individual subscriptions or whatever watched scam, you know, which sounds like a very viable number. He won't reveal the number, but my guess is only a small fraction of that actually paid the money. So I think it's huge. I think it's a massive amount of money that's at stake here.
So then, you know, Gaurav, if this problem is hanging over, you know, our heads, and there is a sense of, you know, we need to go the S-word, the subscription route, which a lot of players are trying. But when you know that the bulk of the gain you could accumulate is being stolen away, and it will certainly be stolen away, then what is the incentive to go the subscription way?
Sure. So I think that, I mean, there's two parts. That I don't think every last one of those 30 million who viewed it.
Of course, I understand. No. Yeah.
But so the estimate, I think, is I was looking this. I think someone came up with an estimate of about $3 billion for the Indian media and entertainment industry, which is about 15% of our industry. I know it's seen as a $300 billion problem in the US. So if it's 15% for the entire industry, I think Karan's estimate of between 30 and 50% is absolutely legit, right? Somewhere in that that ballpark is probably what it's costing us. And the fact that the business is anyway expensive in and of itself, content costs, you know, are right now in excess of everyone's revenues. I think that it's also the reason why we're trying to solve this problem. Now, knowing that this problem has not been quote unquote solved, the question is how can you make the maximum inroads into it? I don't think it's the right knee-jerk to move away from S-word because of that, Srikanth. Because I think
no, of course not.
We're very early days. We're very early days in the Indian internet, and so we're all playing for a brighter future and you know, brighter tomorrow. But I think that if we can remove some of these irritants, that it just sort of reduces the friction, right? All of us make more money earlier, can invest earlier, and it's just good for the industry. So,
but there's no solution in technology terms, in terms of preventing them from doing this. I mean, would Netflix have the same problem?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the same usage. Yeah.
You can.
I don't think that
anybody you can prevent it.
No.
Yeah, there's
no. I can tell you that all the leading OTT players, Viacom, MX, Sony, Prime, Netflix, all the leading would have secure URL. They would have layered content coding. They will have the VPN access block. They will have bot and rogue traffic blocking. They will have DRM. These are the technologies which are available. Now, if somebody invests in a technology which can reverse any of it, you can't help it. Then you will have to go for another technology which must be invented. Now, I don't know, there must be technologies. I'm just giving you the names that we keep putting in our contracts, keep, you know, hearing from our IT people that this is what they have done, now this is what they have brought. In spite of that, pilferages are happening, and that's the reality that we are living in.
Sorry, Karan, you were saying something? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying the same thing, that in fact, I have to say that in certain cases we've had, you know, some contacts and all we put in, and one day, I mean, my legal team is going to scream at me for saying this. I one day with frustration, I was like, "Kya fayda yaar? Humko jo likhna hai likh do." You know, DRM is fine to put on paper, and fine, you invest. In fact, you will invest money in making some DRM solution and licensing and putting it. I said it's all completely useless, because the proof is in the pudding. Like it's instantaneous. As Ritesh says, as Gaurav says, that within 20-30 minutes of putting a show on or putting any kind of content on, it is live on unlimited numbers. For example, we are not talking about torrents right now. None of us have mentioned the word torrent. If you remember 3-4 years ago, that was the core method of downloading pirated content.
Right.
This will keep evolving. I don't think that until there is a addressing of what the real underlying problem is, right? These are just wrappers. Okay, torrent hota tha, or Notch Telegram, or Notch Vidmate. I think one thing, I mean, Gaurav alluded to, which I didn't get into my last answer, is that one initiative we are launching at CII is trying to go after one part of it, which is that the reason why organized piracy exists is that there is actually a large revenue stream attached to it, right? And for these guys, it is a large amount of money because there is no content cost, right? So it's only just whatever revenue. So one initiative that I think CII will be coming out with soon, I think we're just finalizing the nuances of it, is that can you go after the revenue sources of these pirates? Because a lot of these piracy sites are funded by ad revenue, and actually if you go into it, whether it's programmatic, whether it's, I doubt too much of it is direct from big brands, but there is a lot of ad revenue that goes into these sites through programmatic things. So you cut that off. I think you have a concerted effort with advertising agencies and with large advertisers to say that, listen, these guys, you gotta make a concerted effort to make sure money doesn't get to these guys' coffers. That's one way to do it. I think the other side, and I saw this question that's come up on one of the Q&A, I just saw it, that, saying that, in India, we pirate everything from Arsenal jerseys to content or whatever. And I think that is the case. I think there is a very clear consumer mindset here that says that more than anything else, content is a service. I mean, and of course, we pirate even tangible goods, but the concept of paying for a service is still fairly new in our ecosystem. I'll give you an example. There is you see so many apps. It's funny, you go to App Store reviews, Play Store reviews of apps, and you suddenly see this string of negative reviews on an app. You'll be wondering, what happened? Reviews will be like, this is a fraud app, they are asking you to pay money to watch content. Like literally, there are reviews actually out there, and I saw this actually not just on and our own industry is one part of it, but I saw this on a financial services app the other day. Someone has launched a new app to provide you with stock advice, that we do some portfolio advice, this, that, blah, blah, that. And it's not a freemium model, it's pure premium, right? It's a small brand, it's new, I'm not going to name it. So you go there, you download the app, and before you get any advice, you have to pay. And it's some 100-200 rupees type of payment. It's not a huge amount of money. Literally, every review on that app, the top 10 reviews on the app were fraud app. It's asking for money. So, asking for money to give stock advice. You see on apps, I don't know, Ritesh and Gaurav, whether you've noticed this, actually, if you go through the reviews, you'll find saying that this is cheating app, asking for money, fraud app, asking for money. How can you ask for money to watch something? I think there is a large supply demand problem here, and I think that the reason why I brought up that example of the FBI thing is that I didn't mean to say I don't really support locking some poor kid up for pirating content, but I think that people don't actually believe internally that it is a crime, it's robbery to actually do this.
Yeah, no, there's a suggestion on the chat which says that we as an industry should, try and give people a sense that they're taking money out of some poor, writer or crew person's hand by doing this, because like you're saying, it feels like a victimless crime, but it isn't.
No, but this thing is being, I think even with regard to film, I think really going back, people who used to do it, I don't think they ever thought they were doing anything wrong. So I get, okay, I'll throw some questions at you. There's one to Ritesh and Gaurav saying, what do you do when you see a scam or a asur available on Telegram or F movies, right? Do you call the cops, and is there help available? How do they respond?
In the early days, we did, frankly. We were also just getting into the subscription game. Frankly, I have not, the nature of the process that one has to do to take down content. Certainly, there is this concept of content that you can claim, right? If I on services like YouTube and stuff like that, there's also possibilities to pirate content. There is what you can whitelist as your own content, right? So all of us do that wherever those laws are abided by. But in services which are clearly out to make money by not complying, they make it extremely hard for you to object and get taken down. So it becomes sort of like a revolving door, if you will. And so I think we still do it, but we're not. I don't at least feel like we're making inroads, candidly, in those services.
Okay. Another one says that in India, people who watch content on illegal apps like popcorn, etc., don't use VPN guards that protect their IP address. How does this affect the ecosystem?
So Shrikant, if I may answer, see the VPN guards. See the way. Before I answer, I will just take 1 minute to explain the fundamentals of anti-piracy. Anti-piracy is, we all know that the content is available. There are certain low-hanging fruits where you just go and pluck them in real time and take off the content. It's a daily exercise. So we all have 24/7 anti-piracy teams sitting, and they're just doing that. Telegram is a non-compliant platform. Once a file is shared in a group and it keeps on getting shared, you can't take off that file. You can plug the hole by removing the file from the master chat room so that it doesn't get shared further. But once I've shared it with Shrikant, Shrikant can share it with Karan, Karan can share it with Gaurav, so on and so forth. The file which is in circulation, that cannot be taken out.
But tell me, Telegram's name keeps on coming up. Doesn't it shoulder any of the liability? I mean, what can you do against Telegram?
So Shrikant, it's very interesting. You please see, if I have a Telegram account and I'm an organized pirate, I get hold of Ashram's episodes, I will immediately share it with Karan and Gaurav and then Shrikant, and it keeps on spreading and the views are getting accumulated. Now the file which is in circulation cannot be removed, but I can just go and stop Ritesh, who's the first initial person who started sharing, can remove the file from his account. Now the problem with Telegram is that it takes about 24 to 48 hours to act upon the notice.
You know, but now, that's like curing the first guy who gave COVID. I mean,
that's a platform.
Everybody else has got it. So
no, but you know, Shrikant, that's a platform, right? That's why it is called a problematic platform, because the file is in circulation. You can't kill it, but you can kill the file from where it is getting leaked. So that's a problem.
Okay. All right. So there was one question which is not really, I mean, I think Karan has already mentioned. I'm just reading it out anyway. From selling knockouts of Ray-Ban glasses to knockouts of Man U or Arsenal jerseys, and now content ripping. Is there a deeper problem in India? Which I think we kind of agreed that there may be. Okay. There's a question from Vanita Kohli Khandekar saying, have OTTs done any investigation into internal leaks? What kind of security measures, if any, are in place? I mean, could the problem be internal?
So one of the things we do is that we do, whenever we find something rampant, you do create watermarks at different levels to see which version is going out.
Okay.
Haven't found as much success. We do obviously employ like third parties to maybe.
But tell me, why do you say watermarks don't work? They haven't worked as well?
Because I've seen that the final content that's playing off my platform also has been scraped. Sometimes it's not an intermediary. Basically, the content goes through multiple stages, right? And there are many people that touch it. So anybody could potentially be someone that's leaked the content themselves. And so there is a capability of actually tracking that through the process. I haven't found that to be very successful, unfortunately. We went through that, and that wasn't the primary root cause, although we managed to cover some ground there. That didn't change our reality.
Okay. Shrikant, I mentioned that we all have the top-notch technology which is available. But to answer on watermarking, the organized pirates have technologies to even mask the watermarking, even mask the invisible watermarking. And this is what's happening on the linear side. When your channels get, I mean, mind you, the channels get also distributed on OTT platforms. So it has a stake in that.
Sure.
So I've found so many cases where the organized pirates have been able to rip off the watermark, even the invisible watermark. There are all sorts of technologies that they invest in.
Okay, then there's a question saying, this is not so, it's not a metro, non-metro issue, right? That there's more illegality in one, or more illegal viewing in metros versus non-metros. Is there anything like that, or not really? It's not an issue, no?
I haven't come across any data which suggests that this is more.
Okay. There's one more saying from somebody, Yugal Kishore, saying, does restricting screenshot screen recording like Netflix and Prime Video they've been doing, does it lessen the impact of piracy by some fraction? I mean, does it? I think you can't take screenshots, right?
The screenshot is really of the asset that you use to bring people into the video. So that's used in a variety of things. It doesn't sort of limit the video itself. So I don't.
Okay.
Screen recording also can be restricted, but I think Ritesh's point, which he made earlier, was correct. That this is kind of like amateur piracy. Where someone takes something and does some screen recording and all. The one when it's done at the industrial scale, it is done at. This is all like I said, it's like playing whack-a-mole. Any new technology, I mean, guys, let's be honest, right? There are we send rovers to Mars. There is more than enough intellectual firepower in this world to break any technology you want. It's not. I don't think you can do it in today's internet age. And Ritesh, you pointed Telegram out as a problematic platform, and I agree, it's a big problem for us. But I think we now all have to realize that we have to live with it. The open concept of an open platform where someone can share something and it can proliferate is we can't roll that back. I think that's now here to stay. Sure, YouTube did a different way of saying let's claim it because it was streaming. Telegram is a non-profit. They are actually making no money off this whatsoever. I would say that and yeah, could they do more about restricting? Yes. I think so. I think they could make it a little bit harder, and I think they will. I think there's enough pressure on them.
There's, by the way, questions from somebody called Shwini saying, I see a lot of legit advertisers on illegal streaming sites. Is it all programmatic, or are we missing a trick here?
But I think that's what Karan was explaining. That a lot of brands do not know where their advertisements are going to get streamed. So there are digital agencies. They just identify the TG and who's getting the maximum views, and these are programmatic ads, and they just get placed in pirated content. And that's what Karan was talking about. His vision is to kill that particular source by educating the brands that please make your marketeers a little more sensible and intelligent not to release the ads on pirated platforms. And if we can achieve that, that will be some achievement. May not be able to eradicate the piracy, but it will leave some kind of dent on the organized piracy.
Okay. Okay, I think we've actually overshot our time by a few minutes. I want to ask one last question before you go. Imagine that we were coming back and meeting here 1 year from now, discussing the same subject just for a moment. How would the conversation be different, do you think? Would it be different?
I'm hoping we will be discussing the progress that we've made and the few avenues that we've successfully shut down and the miles to go before we sleep. I think some of this is about at least, solving some part of the problem, because I don't think it's going to go away completely. But I think that, minimizing it or continuing to try to make inroads, as far as I can tell, is the only approach. I don't think there is a one size fits all.
Shrikant, my take would be that, Gaurav, if I may say, piracy would have increased by many folds in 1 year. We would have achieved at an individual level and collectively. If at all we all put our collective might behind this, we might be able to close a couple of organized pirates shops. But I think, in my view, if in the next 1 year, whatever the initiatives at an industry level we are planning to take, if those initiatives fructify, and we put our might resources in doing cross-border litigation, I see great hope in actually bringing this piracy growth, at least stunt that growth. That can happen only through litigation. That's my view. Otherwise, we are all doing enough at our individual level. We are pumping in money. The budgets are going up, to counter anti-piracy. But at an industry level, we have to do something to come up with the,
But my question to you is, what can you do at an industry level that you would not do at a company level? Meaning, my point is this a battle that you have to fight individually as companies, or is there something to be gained by coming together in some other way, or is it basically because we all
at both levels? At both levels, I think one initiative Karan spelled out, which I'm really looking forward to. We have been talking about doing something like that. The other initiative could be picking up some of the organized pirates and going after them wherever they are situated, and put the battery of lawyers and get their results. And in US, IPCAP has done it. They have shut 4 major damaging pirate shops, and they are running.
Sorry, who has done it?
So so the channels, I think Gaurav's company's channels and our channels and some of other Indian broadcaster channels are distributed on a linear basis in US. So there is a company called Dish EchoStar which distributes those channels. They have set up, it's called International Broadcasters Coalition Against Piracy. It's an individual venture set up by broadcasters. They pump in about 5% of the subscription fee. The EchoStar puts in their money, and this is run by individual lawyers and individual CA who's given the targets. Unlike MPA, where the studios intervene, do this, do that, do this. It's an individual thing, and they have done phenomenally well. They have actually brought down the growth of the piracy, which is great. You can't eliminate the piracy, you can contain it. Are we doing enough to contain is the question that we need to ask.
Okay, Karan, what do you think 1 year from now, if we were having the same discussion, would we be talking about something different?
Not 1 year. I think if you look at a maybe 3-year time frame, I think you can have an impact. I think year is very short to have an impact on this thing. But I think
so what would happen? What would happen 3 years later? What could happen 3 years later? Let's say
if we are able to take hard action. Right, the CI thing I mentioned to you before could fructify into something, and what Ritesh pointed out, I think the movie industry tried to do it in the 90s or early 2000s at one point. It ended up happening where, as you said, there were enough players were willing to contribute money to an independent setup with an independent management with targets defined to deal with the problem. I think that could be very effective because you can go after people legally. And then I think the only other caveat I'd give to it is that also requires some degree of political will, because as you said, I think the problem is not just that people see this as a victimless crime. I think for the most part, even largely, we have so many problems to solve in our country that I don't think it really makes a list of any major government initiative either, right? Saying, "Ke yaar, chalo, we are solving crimes of a much more heinous nature." This doesn't make the cut. So I think, but an initiative like that, well funded, well managed, with government support, in 3 years' time, you can see results.
Okay, great. Okay, that is really a terrific discussion. I must say, till an hour ago, there was just so much about piracy I did not know. I've really learned a lot. And to the audience, thank you so much. There were a lot of questions, and I could, I think, bring up only about a half of them. So apologies to the others who I couldn't. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ritesh, Karan, Gaurav. I think that was a wonderful session. I really enjoyed myself.
Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you.
Maybe we will discuss this 1 year or perhaps 3 years later, as Karan said.
I think we need to fell some big trees in a year.
Sorry?
I think we need to fell some big trees.
We need to do that. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.